Hello, I'm Karen Stathoplos, and I'm going to be reading from two main writers today. The first one is Monica Wood, who lives in Portland and is known for writing the memoir When We Were the Kennedys, and also her book Any Bitter Thing, which is very wonderful, won a National Book Award. This is from The One in a Million Boy, a book I just received for Christmas and is so wonderful in so many ways, I can't even describe it. There are many different kinds of unusual people falling in love or loving each other in this book. And the main kind of one, I would say, is between this one in a million boy and Mrs. Ona Vitkis, who's 104 years old. She lives alone, and every Saturday, a Boy Scout is dropped off at her house to do chores for her. She usually doesn't like them and sends them away. She's a little persnickety, but she happens to find this one in a million boy very, she just really is intrigued by him. She's delighted by him and many other things. She also finds out that his passion is world records, particularly Guinness World Book records. So I'm going to read you a little bit from the book, and here we are. On the fourth Saturday, before attempting his chores, the boy presented Ona with a printout of the vital statistics of a Madame Jeanne-Louise Calment of Arles, France, who died in 1997 with the apparently unbeatable title of longest lived person ever. 122 years, read the boy in a voice better reserved for 16th century proclamations, and 164 days. Oh, that's ridiculous, Ona said. Let me see that. There wasn't much, really. Madame Calment's life, like most lives, comprised a pileup of ordinary days. The boy produced several more sheets, more interviews with Madame Calment, which Ona read start to finish. When's your birthday? He asked, slipping a notebook out of his pack. January 20th. He jotted down some numbers and slowly computed them. That makes 18 years and 99 days to beat the record. I can't last that long, Ona said. This woman is some kind of freak. But even as she spoke these words, the time between now and then seemed bridgeable. Since the age of 90, she'd awoken each morning with the thought, this could be the day. Now, here was this French flapjaws redefining the rules of the race. Who could fathom God's calendar? However, she told the boy, I wouldn't mind giving Madame Parlez-vous a run for her money. The boy all but caught fire with glee. 1, he said, competitors must set clear goals. 2, competitors must understand the competition. He returned to his backpack, unzipped one of its myriad pouches, and removed another sheet. The oldest currently living female is Mrs. Ramona Trinidad Iglesias Jordan, age 114, country of Puerto Rico. Mrs. Ramona Trinidad Iglesias Jordan is also the oldest currently living person. The oldest currently living male is Mr. Fred Hale, age 113, country of USA. He looked up to see how this news was landing. Is there a record for oldest old crab? The boy took this question like all questions without irony. 1, a record attempt has to be sanctioned. 2, a record attempt has to be witnessed. 3, a record attempt has to fall within the boundaries of the law. Ona read over the sheet of brief but vital statistics, trying not to care and failing utterly. Madame Calment's record was ludicrous, certainly, but the others might be beatable. Mrs. Puerto Rico might put up a fight, she said, but how many people could possibly stand between me and Mr. Hale? Men have the life expectancy of gerbils. I might be third or fourth in line. I'll find out, he fairly shouted, making another notation. He looked full, is how she remembered it later. He bared all his short, bright teeth. Oh, oldest currently living person, Ona said. The living part has a reassuring ring. You want the all-time record, though, for all posterity. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We got a couple of other players to pick off first. Shutting his eyes, the boy recited, competitors must fully and completely fulfill the requirements stated in the Guinness World Records Record Breaker Pack. What's in the... 1, you get an official claim form. Normal track or fast track? He glanced at his notebook. We'll do fast track. How many times have you done this? 8, but people take my ideas before I think them up. And the boy wrote furiously a to-do list that reminded Ona what urgency had once felt like. She sat in a pleasing, light-hearted haze, observing the feeders through her window, imagining her name in a record book. All those demure round letters in the first name, followed by the stocky surprise of the surname, Ona Vitkis. She thanked herself for having the foresight to snatch back her maiden name, which in 1948 had been no small matter. She felt suddenly fond of her unremarkable life, that humdrum necklace of imitation pearls with the occasional glint of the real thing. The boy kept glancing at her as he would at a prize heifer, and she felt like one, round and healthy, clean and well-brushed, a surefire winner. The boy had decided to take no chances. On the 6th Saturday, he brought her a list of the most statistically dangerous pursuits, ranging from death by cave diving, getting lost while, running out of air while, being eaten by a sea creature while, to death by door, walking into, burning alive while searching for key to, discovering stairs removed from the other side of. There were 52 items on the list. Read this just in case, he cautioned. You don't want to get all the way to 122 years, 164 days, and then accidentally die because you, here he consulted his list, cut off your thumb while slicing a bagel. Well, I wouldn't want to go like that at any age. After they'd perused the list of death and dismemberment, he produced an addendum. Home exercises for the elderly, plus an updated inventory of supercentenarians. The woman from Japan had died, along with a sketchy contender from Guam, plus 10 supercentenarian profiles he'd procured from God knows where. She envisioned the boy's internet as a magic cube that crackled with news. Look here, Ona said. The Hartley woman still reads without her glasses. She squinted through her own glasses, shuffling the sheets. Some of the profilees were half blind or deaf or off their rockers. These she skipped over with a shudder. But most of them weren't. This Wong fellow mows his own lawn. He could be a problem. The boy said, maybe we can think of a record to hold your place till you get older. You mean in case I don't make it? His eyes flew open. No, that's not what I mean. She believed him. Oldest skydiver is taken, plus oldest pilot, plus oldest showgirl, he frowned. But the record holders are way younger than you are. Are you interested in breaking a record that has already been set? Not without a bone transplant. He ticked off a preposterous list of possibilities, wing walking, pogo sticking, and at the end, Ona could think of no plausible record for herself except oldest woman to have sat around wasting what turned out to be 17 years after Louise died. You're 36 days older than when I first met you, the boy said. Ditto. He peered out the window. Is that your car out there, he asked. Of course that's my car. Whose else's would it be? His eyes moved to her, pinning her in place. He had something. Does it work? It most certainly does. I have it inspected and registered once a year. A man from the Knights of Columbus takes it to the service station for me since I was unable to renew my license last time I tried. And I can't sashay into a car inspection establishment with an expired license in my wallet. Oh, he said, darn. That's not the word I used. I thought you might be a driver, a car driver. I didn't say I wasn't a driver. I said I didn't have a license. She leaned in. Because of my age, I was required to take a road test, and the 16-year-old tester flunked me. Maybe he made a mistake. I told the church ladies I passed. She hoped the boy wouldn't mind. I told a fib. I told a fib too, he said. I told my dad I like music, but I don't. There's too many chords, and it's hard to keep your fingers in the right place. Now listen, she said. She straightened up and sang a few bars of Beautiful Dreamer. That was excellent, Miss Fitkiss. See there, you do like music. It's musical instruction you dislike, and I can't say I blame you. In any case, I drive my car 1.5 miles to the supermarket and back once a week, same route every time. That sounds very safe. Tell it to the nosy parker down the street. You know what a realtor is? A realtor is a person who sells houses. Well, this realtor is a person who snatches houses. You see her picture on lawn signs all over town. Lime green blazer, high red hair. She's dying to sell this place out from under my creaky old feet and watches my every move like a cat watching a mouse. Does she have a pink face? That's the one. Don't let her sell your house from under your creaky old feet. Don't you worry. The color of his eyes did its odd shifting, gray to blue-gray. It was one of the first things she'd noticed about him. Mr. Fred Hale, age 108, country of USA, holds the record for oldest licensed driver. Wait a sec. Isn't Mr. Fred Hale one of my chief rivals, age 113? Am I recalling incorrectly? Mr. Fred Hale, age 113, holds the record for oldest living male, but he also holds the record for oldest licensed driver. But his age for oldest licensed driver is 108, not 113. Somebody probably grabbed it away the second he passed the test. I never thought of that. Maybe it was a ceremonial record. Maybe he never intended to use his shiny new license. Oh, I never thought of that either. Well, I don't want a ceremonial license. In fact, she said, I would love nothing better than to once again become a legitimate driver. I could roar right past Mrs. Pink-Faced Billboard and she wouldn't have a thing to say about it. He stood up. Can you get your license back after they take it away? I'd have to pass a written test. A baby monkey could do that. And an eye test. My eyes are good. It's the road test that jumbles me up. His hands flew to his head. Miss Vitkiss, if you pass the written test, and if you pass the eye test, and if you pass the road test, keep your shirt on. I'm going to have to practice. I've been driving right along, but that's a secret, but not with any plan to pass a test. I'm going to have to brush up. You need a book. What kind of book? The kind that teaches you how to drive, he said. Then you can have your license back, and then in 4 years, plus one more day than the record breaker age of Mr. Fred Hale, you'll be an official Guinness World Record holder. But in 4 years, I'll have to renew my license again. It's every 4... Oh, but you will, right? You'll go to the driving place and ask for another road test so you can renew your license for another 4 years, right? I'll be 108 years old, for crumb's sake. And anyway, you'll be 15. You'll have moved on to other things. Oh, no, he assured her. Every Guinness World Record holder has a support team. I'm your support team. You can do it. Oldest licensed driver, age 108. Imagine. But you're going for longest lived person too, the all-time record, don't forget. Rest assured, I shall keep the ultimate goal in mind, she said. In the meantime, we've got ourselves a dandy placeholder to shoot for. You might end up with 2 records. He grabbed his hair with both hands, 2 times in the book, 2 times immortal. Once again, she had this strange, lovely boy hopping in glee, right in her kitchen, where glee had not been in residence since Louise's passing. Glee in the form of this boy who might single-handedly will her to live another 2 decades. Which is how she wound up on the following Saturday, driving the Reliant past the supermarket and back, being coached by an 11-year-old child. She'd had to talk him into skipping his chores. She felt foolish, but he was a good coach, calm and methodical. "How many seconds of following distance are required on slippery roads?" he asked as she edged into the light weekend traffic. He'd been quizzing her from a booklet authorized by the DMV. "What difference does it make? I never drive in the rain." But she slowed automatically, for she'd been following a tad close. You might get this question on a real test." "Fine." She glanced at him. 5 seconds? "I'm sorry, that answer is not correct. The correct answer is 3 to 4 seconds. "Ask me another." "In city traffic, the driver should try to look how many blocks ahead, 1, 2, or 3. She was following too closely again. His questions were serving as a guide, she realized. He's preparing her for the road test and written test simultaneously. "Do your teachers tell you you're smart?" "Mr. Linkman tells me not to count things." He was still focused on the booklet, not letting her slide past the question. 2? She said, 2 blocks ahead. "I'm sorry," he said. "That answer is also incorrect. The correct answer is 1 block ahead." "For crumb's sake," she muttered. "Is there a record for oldest unlicensed driver?" "No," he said. "They discourage criminals." "It's a crime for an old lady to drive herself to the supermarket?" "You have to have a license. That's why they have practice tests, so you can improve. This is practice test 1. There's 6 in all." "How is anybody supposed to pass this stupid test? It's full of useless information." "You said a baby monkey could pass the written test," he reminded her. "It's the road test you're worried about." She pulled over. "My head's all woolly," she told him. "This is harder than I thought." "But you said this was the easy part. What about the eye test? Is the eye test going to be harder than you thought?" "Now, don't start fretting." He looked around. "When you park near a curb—" "I know this one," she said. "Park as close as you can to the curb, but no farther than 18 inches. "That's correct," he crowed. "That's the correct answer." "Try me again." "When parking in the vicinity of a fire hydrant 10 feet. "That's also correct." "Don't act so surprised." She put the car back in gear. "Okay, I've got my wits back again. Let's swing toward my house and you can quiz me on the way." "Miss Vitkiss?" "Wait, I'm concentrating." After she crept back out to Brighton Avenue, just a few blocks now from home, he said, "You did very excellent, Miss Vitkiss, but you might have to study a little harder." "Yes, I know," she sighed, "because we're on a mission." "That's the correct answer." She glanced at him and saw him. He was smiling. He'd made a joke, a pretty good one at that. When they got back to the house, he insisted on completing his chores, was in fact verging on panic that he'd been doing them out of order, so she called the scoutmaster and asked for a later pickup. She arranged his cookies on a plate, poured some milk, flipped through the practice manual as she waited. She would study harder. She did not want to disappoint him. And now, I can tell you that book only gets better. Another Maine writer, Edna St. Vincent Millay, lived in the 1920s, and she wrote poetry. This is a book of her collected sonnets, and gosh, I love these. They're generally about lips and a very different kind of mood than the One in a Million boy. This first one I particularly like because of the first line. I once had to shout several times through a crowded room when my mom was trying to ask me, because it also happens to be the name of a book about Edna St. Vincent Millay, but this happens to be just the first line. But if you can imagine this being shouted in a crowd of women, it was sort of humorous before my mom heard it. What lips my lips have kissed. What lips my lips have kissed. That's me shouting it, yes, okay. And where and why, I have forgotten, and what arms have lain under my head till morning. But the rain is full of ghosts tonight that tap and sigh upon the glass and listen for reply. And in my heart there stirs a quiet pain for unremembered lads that not again will turn to me at midnight with a cry. Thus in the winter stands the lonely tree, nor knows what birds have vanished one by one, yet knows its boughs more silent than before. I cannot say what loves have come and gone. I only know that summer sang in me a little while, that sings in me no more. I have two more. Oh, there's my other little, there. I think I should have loved you presently and given in earnest words I flung in jest, and lifted honest eyes for you to see, and caught your hand against my cheek and breast, and all my pretty follies flung aside that won you to me. And beneath your gaze, naked of reticence and shorn of pride, spread like a chart my little wicked ways. I, that had been to you, had you remained, but one more waking from a recurrent dream, cherish no less the certain stakes I gained, and walk your memory's halls, austere, supreme, a ghost in marble of a girl you knew, who would have loved you in a day or two. Now that I've lost my place, we may... All right, this one I also like. The heart once broken is a heart no more, and is absolved of all a heart must be. All that it signed or chartered heretofore is canceled now. The bankrupt heart is free. So much of duty as you may require of shards and dust, this, and no more of pain, this, and no more of hope, remorse, desire. The heart, once broken, needs support again. How simple 'tis, and what a little sound it makes in breaking. Let the world attest. It struggles, and it fails. The world goes round, and the moon follows it. Heart in my breast, 'tis half a year now since you broke in two. The world's forgotten well, if the world knew.